Welcome to the channel, Farm with Nick. Thanks so much for joining me here on a special episode of a custom cattle farm on Alma, Missouri. And you can see I am leaving the main farm, or the starting farm here on Alma. And I am first going to drive out and show you where I placed my farm. And then I'll take you on a tour around it, show you all the buildings and mods that I used, and how I kind of implemented a lot of the techniques, kind of explain all that. And then at the end, I'll do a flyover. So you can see I'm driving out quite a ways from the starting farm, but just want to give you the relative distance of where this build is at. Alright, out of control. Okay, so here is the farm I am coming up to. And if you've played on Alma, you know about this farm. This is the pig farm here on kind of the northern corner away from town here on Alma, Missouri. So I built my custom farm here on this kind of a footprint of a farm. And just to kind of show you what is here, just to kind of give you a idea of what I changed around. Here's the house through the trees. Has a garage. You have your main driveway here. And then you have a little grain bin, you have your barns, you have your pig barn right here, and then you have your main pole barn right here. And this footprint that you see of just like the barns and the house, and then these two fields, I kept the two fields, and I kept everything on this smaller footprint, which I am really excited to show you, and I'm really happy with how it came out. And I wanted to create something a little bit different than what I'm used to, and that kind of push my limits a little bit of what I could do in a small space and what I could utilize. So I kept some of the driveways, but you'll see I changed around quite a bit. So I'll kind of just step back a little bit. I'm going to take it from this into this. So welcome to my custom farm here on the north end of the map, Alma, Missouri. And before I kind of take you around and show you everything, if you're unfamiliar with the map itself, here's Alma, here's your starting farm, which is 39. There is a secondary cattle farm at 46, and then you have your town here to the left, and then all the way up to the north, you have a pig farm that we saw on field 42. So you had your house, pole barn, pig barn, and then another barn right there. And then I went ahead and purchased field 42. I purchased 13, and then 12, and then finally field 11. So really just these three fields, and I wanted to keep these two, 12 and 13 in particular. I wanted to keep them intact, which I did, and I got everything on the build that I wanted to. So let me just kind of hop into my pickup here and kind of drive you around, give you a quick overview, and then also kind of give you a detailed overview of all the buildings and a flyover at the end. So you can see, I'm just going to wrap around here, everything is contained into that small footprint. And then I have my grass fields or hay fields here still in the back. So I'm really excited. It took a while trying to get the layout just right and not kind of go into the hay fields. That took some time. And then honestly, with this build, it was kind of building it into the slope and the hill that is over here. So a lot of terrain work was done here on this build. And when I mean a lot, it's quite a bit. And I know, like on other maps and other builds, I have done a lot of terrain work, but this one in particular, it did take a lot of hours to actually get everything built and everything the way I wanted, and a lot of trial and error, and especially with placing buildings down. You can see right now I still have 8.9 million, but that's just from me kind of just giving myself money, because when you're doing some of the finer details and trying to get everything the way you want it, it does take quite a bit of time and quite a bit of money. If I was trying to do this without that, it would take a lot of time. So first, all right, let me just get out of the truck. I put down one of the starting homes here. I took out the garage and kind of opened this space up. And then this loops around, and I kept some of these opening trees, even the one right by the house. And then this loops through the little garage port to our patio. And then you can see you have some of the main barns here right away. And then if I go back around the house, we have all of our cattle barns, and I like how I did this, and I'll come back to this in a second. Everything is very condensed, and then I was able to actually get different stalls and different areas to the cattle. So we'll come back to that. And then around back, we have our main barn right there. And I kept all my silos all together. So let me kind of take you up there first. So around here, kind of have the awning opening of this barn here. Have some vehicle maintenance mods around there. Have some fertilizer mods, some seed mods, and you can see I have been placing some equipment in there, kind of just testing around the build a little bit. And then this is kind of my main, workshop pole barn here. And, it's right off the back of the house. I have some things around the side, working on some firewood. But right off of the backyard here is the main workshop. And then the main barn right here, right next to it. Then you can see I put 2 silos in, which I think it looks really cool like that. And I actually, pretended that these were older silos. So they're actually built in to the barn. The first one is a multi-fruit silo. And then the second one is a fermenting silo. So for TMR, it does pig feed as well, if you wanted to. Or that way you can put your chaff in there and then ferment it into silage. And then I have another bin, grain bin, off to the right, just for extra storage. And then we have another barn right here, and this is just another vehicle barn for tractors, tools, attachments, what have you. So kind of tuck that in right to the corner here. And then we have another grain bin right here. I do not have any augers right now, but you can get them in. I tested that out. But just one little grain bin. Maybe they added that a little bit later. And then we have a corn crib right here as well. And then that loops to the back of the barn, as you can see. So nice and condensed. It kind of fits all together, but then you still have the hayfield. So I'm glad I didn't have to like go into that. But there's your main operation, all your storage, everything is right there. Then I'll kind of loop back around the opposite way. We have a bale storage shed right here, and there's triggers where you can just put the bales in there, and then that kind of loops around to the back part to the other hayfield. And you can see I have some other stuff just kind of parked along here, but once again I did not go into that field, so I kept that field intact and was able to place this bale barn right there. Alright, and then we're finally to the main part almost here, is the cattle. So I have a windmill here, little fuel tank, and I have my different cattle pens all placed around. So let me show you all this. So this is a gate mod with lights, and then I was able to get fencing all around, and here is the first and the main cattle area here. So I have their feed trough is right here, and this is one of the fenceless pasture mods that I'll show you here in a second. But I have them going into this cattle barn here. So I don't have anything like in the barn. I know you could put other decorations in it, kind of put stalls, equipment to kind of make it more, realistic, but I just kept it open. And then that loops up here, and you can see I have a little water, manure pit, and that loops up this way. They have another door, and that comes to the second gate into the next animal pen. And you can close this off if you wanted, and you're in the middle pen right here. I mean, this is so cool. So I have another manure pit here, and then we have another barn up here for our heifers. And then this is what I'm calling my calf barn. So I put another couple gates in here, kind of closing it out. And then I put my little calf huts in here, as you can see. And I didn't put a gate right here out of the barn, but I have another gate coming out of here up to the main house. So pretty cool. I'm really excited to show you that. And then I have a couple extra gates here that you can pass through, and then you're in the front here, and there's our calf barn, and these are calves right now, but you could get them a little older. And then this is the heifer barn up here, and that loops up to the main road. And then I have another set of gates that you can pass through up here. And these ones, I went for a more like, decorative gate, as this would be like, the front of your farm, and not the big lights. So then you can pass through that way. So really cool. I'm really happy with how the design came out. And just to show you, so this is another fenceless cattle pasture, and then I have the other fenceless cattle pasture over there. So there's only two. The one up there actually comes into this middle pen, and then the one back here just stays to this back area. And then, like I said, that is the calf barn in there. So that took some time trying to lay it out and trying to get everything where it would actually fit, and the pastures would get in there correctly. But I like it a lot, and you can see the cattle too. I put on some of the enhanced animal mods. That's why the cattle have the ear tags on them. There is a bowl in that right cattle pen, and then that kind of loops up to here, the front of the farm again. So let me show you a couple things. Let me show you the barns and the other mods that I used, and then I'll show you kind of what I did with the cattle pens to get them to work. So let me go into the build, and feel free to pause it at any time if I'm going too fast. But the first one here is just the farmhouse, and this is the one with the attached garage. So this was the placement I did of it, and you have to do some modifications on the terrain, of course, to get it to fit, but it works out pretty well. And then we'll kind of just stay on this side of the farm. The next barn here is garage with workshop, and then I painted it that darker red color to kind of fit in. You can see everything is that darker red color. And then the next one is our main barn, which is called American Barn, and there are modded versions with the hayloft or pallet storage, or the ones that come with silos attached, which those silos attached would be back here. And I kind of played around with those ideas, but in the end I just decided to place my own because I wanted them on this side. Now I know I am kind of closing out. There are 3 doors on that barn, and you can only use the middle one, but you have the main ones, and then you have the 3 side ones over here, so still plenty of ways to access that barn. So I just wanted to make a quick edit and show you a quick option. I know I talked about the silos both being here on the right side, but you could just move that staff silo over here and then kind of have it attached to the side of the barn, kind of like a little silo room there, and then that way you have a little bit more space right in here to kind of maneuver around and get through. Now the trigger is actually inside the barn, like right here, and then you can empty right here, so it works, but you could put it back into its original location over here, and then that trigger for the fill is actually just right in the center of the barn. So when you drive through, it's right in the center, and then the dump is over here. So either way, you could do with that silo, but just to give you another idea and another overview with that, just wanted to show you the option there. And then the next pole barn here is called American Barn. Now this one, and I'll show you the other ones, they're all off of a American shed pack. So I painted this one that dark red, and then over here, this is also the same, the small American pole barn, and that has the double doors. And then this one was even smaller for our heifer barn. It's a small pole barn, and it's got like that different texture there on the roof. So those are all out of the same pack. And these doors, I kept the doors like that open, to kind of simulate that's where the cattle will be going. And then this one being a vehicle, it's like your regular kind of garage door. And then we have our silos. So this is just an extension bin that you can get. This is a multi-fruit silo, like I said before. And then we have a staff silo, and used for making TMR and fermenting some other crops. And then we have a couple more things over here. We have the hopper bin that you could use, and maybe thinking like they had the 2 concrete silos to start on this build, and then as the farm kind of got bigger, they started adding these other bins to it. And then we have the corn crib mod here for drying. And then over here, I have the old American shed, and this is for bales. And then kind of looping back this way, our main calf barn is the wooden old open barn. So, and I oriented it so like, you know, you could drive this way and then you can drive sideways through with those gates kind of closing it out. And then a lot of other little things, I know, trying to show you fast, but like, for example, you know, all these fence gates are out of a pack. So you can get these. And then these other, you know, fences I just put were like, you know, part of just these open barbed wire fence lines that you can grab. But then I kept these two fence gates the same with the nice lights. Have a little fuel storage, water tank, slurry pit right there. And let me kind of explain how I got the animal pens in, if you're interested in that really quick. So first, I placed the barns, so these three, and finagled around with the terrain quite a bit. So it might take you a while, but it's not too bad. It's doable. Off of the main drive here, these roads are all the same. So like this path goes right into the calf barn, and then this path loops right down, and then this little drive here is on the main build, or the original build too, that goes to the pig barn. So I placed those three barns, and then I placed the fence lines just to kind of see where I wanted everything. So I placed all the fence lines kind of going around the area here. And once I got the fence lines where I wanted them to place the animals in, you actually have to delete the barns. So that's where, like, you know, spending all this money and then trying to buy everything back again became a task. So I deleted the barns. Then I placed these two fenceless pasture mods for cattle. And then you can see the little grass patches around if you're looking. And then after I had those placed in, and this one kind of goes like up to here, goes up and around, and then it goes through the barn. Once I did that, I went back and I placed the animal barns back in. And it worked out really, really nicely. Now, I know I just have cattle here. I kind of played around with the idea of putting like maybe like a pig, you know, barn up here. I played around with maybe putting chickens over here. I didn't in the end, but not to say that you couldn't. But yeah, there's my layout then. So you have like the front pasture or pen. You have the middle pen, which, you know, obviously technically it's just this one again, the front one. But then you have your calf, little huts in there. And then you have your main cattle pen in the back here. And then that loops to the back drive and then back to the bale storage. So pretty cool. I am very, very happy with how this turned out. And as you can see, I've been kind of excited, and I have already been playing a little bit on it just to kind of see and testing, honestly, how would everything work out? How does the layout work? Does it flow? You know, all of the little things maybe that you don't think of sometimes, but then, you know, I want to test out the map before I kind of just say, here, this is a good map, you should play it. Like, it works really good, you know? Like, that's not me. I tested it. You know, placements of a few things I had to switch around, but for the most part, you know, you can get all your equipment in this, you know, big open middle driveway area, and then all of the cattle pen areas work to get through, and it's really not too bad to get feed and water to them. It all works out. So the flow does work. And then you can see I did a lot with texturing all the ground and putting in the tracks, all that good stuff, and all the decorations. You probably noticed as I was kind of driving around the farm, the old calf huts there, old tractor, and just putting, you know, some of the landscaping around as well. And then placing a couple rocks here and there, just to kind of, you know, soften where some of the slope and the terrain changes are. So there you go. Let me drive back up to the front here, give you one last flyover, and thank you so much for joining me here on this cattle farm tour. And I'll kind of just park across the street. And this, I actually toyed around with the idea of placing things over here, but in the end, it was actually just easier to build all on that same site. So let me hop into just the build, just to make it quick, and give you a last little flyover. So if you're new to the channel, Farm with Nick, I would love to have you kind of tag along, join the community. Let me know what you think about this build, and feel free to comment, watch my other farm builds here on FS25, and also feel free to check out my other playthrough series as well. So I hope you liked this build. It was a lot of fun making it. Like I said, took a lot of time, and I was just really excited to get this video out and show everyone. So thank you so much for joining me here on Alma, Missouri, and I hope to see you around. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.